Hello friends, welcome back to the next session on operations planning, scheduling and control. Now let's begin with our learning. In this particular session, we'll be able to understand and deal with the concepts of material redeployment. The learning objectives. At the end of this particular session, the learners will be able to understand what do we mean by material redeployment, what is the importance or the role that has been played by material redeployment in the operations management. Now let's understand the concept of material redeployment. So the concept of material redeployment is a latest and advanced concept in which whenever a particular organization or a certain activity or a series of transactions are being undertaken in a business organization, a good replenishment and redeployment methods have been important and they have been critically used. That is, when an inventory is been processing in a certain organization from one level to another level, one mode to another mode. So at that particular stage, certain amount of activities may be of a complicated nature. And hence, ensuring that the spare part management or the upkeep maintenance in the organization is being undertaken for all those consideration, material redeployment is essentially or necessarily required. And hence, in a service supply chain or industry or in a goods supply chain industry, it is necessary to see that how do we optimum utilize all the resources, how do we measure the productivity, how the planning of and planning, sequencing and scheduling of all those activities are being undertaken, all or how the automation of the industry, automation of the goods, services and implementation of resources is being undertaken. There should be proper awareness in the minds of the people and all the activity needs to be completed in a well coordinated way. And when all those activities have been completed in a well-coordinated way with respect to the availability of a specified amount of materials, such type of activity is called the material redeployment. Now let's understand what are the benefits of replenishment. So in terms of the redeployment, it is an advanced or the extension level to the replenishment in which you have to try to see that how do we control the wastage or the materials or the mood or the waste in the organization. A reduction in the next flight out, that is NFO, and overnight expedited shipment expenses. So over a period of time, when the goods and services are being moving from one level to another level, one department to another department, or from one country to another country, the department or the company has to incur on the shipment expenses. So the reduction of the shipment expenses with respect to the next flight out is essentially required to be controlled, and hence the material redeployment tries to control those particular activities and the cost that can be incurred. The cost avoidance saving. So when those particular amount of cost are being avoided, then accordingly it acts as an additional saving to the business organization, and accordingly those particular savings can be added as a value to the business firm. Increasing the planner efficiency. So whatever planned activity that has been undertaken in the business organization, such activity should be planned in a sequential way, and increasing the efficiency of the business concern needs to be conducted in a better consideration. Collecting the raw material which has been scattered in the department or a particular different organization or the locations. So whatever data that is available and is of a scattered nature, that particular raw data should be collected at a one position, and accordingly material redeployment or replenishment activity needs to be implemented in the organization. And for those particular constitution, several or different activities can be conducted and it can be complied together of the business concern. And lastly, redeployment processes. So whatever redeployment processes that one has to undertake, it helps a certain organization to replenish, that is, get the benefit in the long run and create a certain qualitative and quantitative product in which the goods and services that have been manufactured are of a beneficial or a qualitative nature. Now let's understand what is the correlation between the operational plan and the deployment efficiency. With respect to the operational plan and the deployment efficiency, it is necessary to see that we have a computerized mechanized system in the business organization. With those particular consideration, when there are participants of the distribution chain, that is, the goods are moving from one level to another level, from the manufacturer to the supplier to the wholesaler to the dealer and ultimately to the retailer, there is always a forward stocking location. That is, when the goods are being moving from one level to another level, the goods are being stocked at each and every individual level. So that is the concept of forward stocking location, and which improves the accuracy and efficiency of the availability of material in the business concern. At an average rate, it has been observed that when the forward stocking location is being conducted effectively, it leads to 98% of the filling rate. That is, the industry norms with respect to the 98% have been fulfilled, and the goods and services that have been needed to be delivered to a certain customer or a certain vendor are available at the better place point of time. So delivery time is been there at a specific interval, and accordingly there is no wastage in time of either material, men, machines, or the product or goods and services in the organization. The inventory redeploying between the FSL, that is forward stocking lines, is always needed to be there in a controlled way, and accordingly the inventory should cover the shortfalls that may avoid the wasteful of an inventory or a certain purchases. So whatever purchases that have been undertaken in the business organization, all those purchases should be deployed in a very effective way, and accordingly the forward stocking location should be there at a certain location, which will not lead to the wastage of money, resources, or the goods and services or material in the organization. And hence the operational plan in coordination with the deployment efficiency is essentially required. And lastly, ensuring that inventory is accessible to all the departments and at all levels. So replenishment and redeployment have a number of advantages which help an organization or a particular manufacturing firm or a concern to see that the operational activity is being conducted in a smooth way and there is no additional cost that has been incurred by the organization for the redeployment as a part of a consideration. Now let's understand what is the application of operational plan in those particular concerns. With respect to the operations plan, the various considerations that one has to consider is the options, the corrections, the checking, the applicability, the concern of the output, and lastly the allocation of resources. And hence the option, that is the several number of options that are available with respect to how various activities can be conducted, any corrections in the activity that have been required, that is the availability of material, availability of the labor hours, completion or the duration of the checking time, and so on. All those things needs to be corrected and it needs to be checked or verified. Applicability as to which process or which activity needs to be applied at what level and how it needs to be completed. With respect to the output, one has to also consider and see that what will be the end resultant or the output for a certain product and how do we allocate the resources in the business organization. So in this case, one has to understand that when we deal with the concept of material redeployment at this particular stage, when the employee number are large, the number of activities that have been conducted in the business organizations are also large, there may be a certain chances of success or failure in the organization. And when there are certain chances of success or failure, the resultant of the product that is being expected may either increase or may either decrease. And hence, the productivity and performance with respect to the human resource, with respect to the public finance, with respect to the private finance also differs, which either increases or which either decreases. And hence, deployment of workforce is essentially important. And simultaneously, the organization also has to focus on how do we eliminate the duplication of work, a series of activities or a planning of activities is undertaken, and a proper work allocation is needed to be taken in the organization. When we say that a certain amount of task is being dedicated to a certain individual, it is also needed to be observed that those particular tasks have been completed by the specific person and it also is being completed within the specified time period. So specific organizational goals and objectives are being met, and accordingly whatever the company is trying to improve or trying to achieve, that thing must be achieved in a specified way with respect to the applicability of diversified nature and the components in the business organization. Now let's summarize what we have learned in this particular session. In this particular session, we have understood and learned what do we mean by material redeployment, why planning is essentially required in terms of material redeployment, and how implementation of material redeployment strategy can be undertaken in this business organization. I hope you must have enjoyed the learning at this particular stage. Thank you so much for your patience listening. Thank you.